The town of Raventon wasn't big enough for secrets. It sat beside a still lake that looked like glass on calm days, and like a mirror to the rot beneath when storms came. Evelyn Shaw had lived there all her life. 32, clever, and composed. The kind of woman who smiled in grocery lines, remembered birthdays, and made everyone else feel like they mattered. Her husband, Daniel, was quieter, a mechanic who ran the small repair shop near Main Street. He loved her quietly, the way men like him do, steady, unspoken, and absolute. A few blocks away, Mara and Jason Linton were the new faces in town. They'd moved from the city a year ago. Outsiders, trying to start fresh after Jason's failed architecture firm. Jason was charming, confident, and always ready with a grin. Mara, on the other hand, carried a kind of sadness that never left her eyes. They met the Shaws on a Sunday afternoon barbecue by the lake. It was one of those gatherings where the smell of charcoal and laughter hid the undercurrents of restlessness. Evelyn liked Mara immediately. They were both reserved, both the kind of women who felt more than they spoke. Daniel and Jason hit it off too, though Daniel was wary of Jason's smoothness. Jason had a way of filling a room, a man too comfortable in his own skin. It started innocent. Jason was funny, effortless. He told Evelyn things Daniel never did. He noticed her new haircut, asked about her art classes, remembered how she took her coffee. Evelyn tried to ignore it, but soon those moments became her favorite part of the week. One evening after class, Jason offered her a ride home. It was raining hard, and her car had stalled again. Inside the car, silence hung between them. Thick, electric. "Evelyn," he said softly, eyes on the road. "You ever feel like you built the perfect life, but forgot to live it?" The words hit her like a confession she'd been waiting to hear. She didn't answer, but when their eyes met at the red light, neither looked away. That night, she lay awake beside Daniel, replaying the drive again and again. It happened 2 weeks later. Mara had gone to visit her sister in another town. Daniel was on a late-night service call. Evelyn and Jason met for coffee. Just coffee. But coffee turned into a walk. And the walk led to Jason's car again. They didn't mean for it to happen. Or maybe they did. But the moment his hand brushed hers, the floodgates opened. By the time they realized what they'd done, the guilt was already too late. Afterward, Evelyn cried. Jason didn't. He held her hand and said, "No one needs to know. It doesn't have to mean anything." But it did. To her, it meant everything and nothing at the same time. A betrayal wrapped in the illusion of being seen. Daniel noticed first, not the affair, but the distance. Evelyn had started humming again, wearing lipstick she hadn't worn in years. She'd go out more, say it was for errands or walks by the lake. He wanted to believe her. Mara noticed too. Jason's absences, his sudden interest in jogging, his new cologne. One night, she found a receipt in his jacket. 2 lattes, 1 vanilla, 1 black. Evelyn's order. Her gut twisted, but she didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, she watched, waited. The storm was brewing, and everyone could feel it. They just didn't know where it would hit first. It was a Friday evening when Daniel saw them. He was driving home from the shop early when he spotted Evelyn's car near the edge of the lake. The same. Daniel didn't need proof. He already knew. He parked far away, hands trembling, watching the silhouettes through the misted glass. A kiss, a touch, a betrayal unfolding in the car where love used to live. He went home without a word. That night he didn't sleep. Neither did his conscience. The next morning, Mara knocked on his door. Her eyes were red. "We need to talk," she said. They sat in silence for a long time. 2 strangers united by the same wound. When she showed him the photos she'd taken, Jason and Evelyn by the lake, he didn't flinch. Finally, Daniel said, "So what do we do?" And Mara replied, "We make them feel what we feel." The next few days passed in a fog of quiet rage. Daniel barely spoke to Evelyn. He couldn't. Not yet. Every time she smiled or asked how his day went, it made his stomach twist. She was good at pretending. He wasn't. Mara, on the other hand, wasn't pretending at all. She had gone past tears into something colder, sharper. She called Daniel one night, her voice low and steady. "We can't just sit here while they play house behind our backs." He didn't argue. They met again, not at a cafe, not by accident this time, but deliberately. A quiet diner on the outskirts of Raventon, where no one would see them. She met his eyes. "I'm saying maybe the only way to make them understand is to give them their own medicine." He didn't reply, not for a long time. Then, quietly, almost to himself, he said, "Maybe you're right. It wasn't attraction that brought them together that night. It was grief, anger, and the strange intimacy of shared pain. 2 broken hearts, bound by the same wound." Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Mara saw more of each other. Sometimes they'd talk for hours about nothing. Sometimes they wouldn't speak at all, just sit by the lake where their spouses had lied. The townspeople began to notice. 2 people, both recently estranged, seen together too often. But gossip didn't matter anymore. Nothing did. Then came the moment it shifted. The first time Mara touched his hand and didn't pull away. It wasn't love. It was something darker, a kind of defiance. Daniel knew it. One night, when Evelyn said she was going out for painting class, Daniel didn't stop her. He waited until she was gone, then went to Mara's house. The lights were low. The air was thick with the kind of silence that knew what was coming. When it finally happened, it wasn't passion. It was punishment. Two people trying to erase the faces of the ones who hurt them. But when it was over, both realized the truth. You can't hurt someone without hurting yourself, too. Days turned into weeks. Evelyn noticed Daniel's distance turning into disinterest. Jason noticed Mara's silence turning into indifference. They both assumed guilt had created the wedge. They never suspected that the ones they'd betrayed were now betraying them in return. Until one night, at a local fundraiser, the four of them ended up in the same room. It was a suffocating sort of tension, like a match hovering over gasoline. Mara and Daniel stood near the back, their eyes cold, detached. Evelyn laughed too loudly at something Jason said, pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't. Underneath that small-town politeness, everything was rotting. When Evelyn excused herself to get wine, she caught a glimpse of Daniel outside, leaning close to Mara, whispering something, smiling. Her stomach dropped. For a moment, she froze, watching. Then Jason came up behind her and asked, "You okay?" She turned, masking the panic. "Yeah, just dizzy." But her mind was already spinning. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Daniel had kissed her goodnight without looking her in the eyes. She could feel the distance, and now for the first time, she feared it wasn't just anger. It was something else. Someone else. The affair between Mara and Daniel deepened. Not in romance, but in dependence. They were drawn to each other's pain, like moths to flame. They told themselves it was revenge, but soon it became confusion, guilt, and satisfaction tangled together. Mara found herself comparing Daniel to Jason. Daniel began thinking of Evelyn whenever Mara smiled. It was as if their hearts couldn't decide who to hate more, their spouses or themselves. Jason, meanwhile, sensed something shifting. Mara was no longer jealous, no longer asking where he'd been. She seemed free. That frightened him more than anger ever could. One evening, he followed her out of the house, through the rain, to the same diner where it had all begun. Through the window he saw her sitting with Daniel, laughing. And in that instant, realized in Raventon, calm never lasted. It was only the pause before the storm. Jason hadn't confronted Mara yet. He wanted proof first. He wanted to know for sure that what he'd seen wasn't just some cruel mirror of his own guilt. So he watched, waited. Mara, meanwhile, was changing. The bitterness that once consumed her had dulled, replaced by a strange quiet. She was no longer the fragile woman crying on her kitchen floor. She was steady now, colder, sharper. Daniel's presence had given her something unexpected: control. But Daniel was unraveling. His revenge had turned hollow. He'd stare at Evelyn across the breakfast table and feel nothing. Not love, not hate, just emptiness. Sometimes he'd wonder if this was what punishment was supposed to feel like. He parked across from Daniel's repair shop and waited. At 8:17 p.m., Daniel's truck pulled out. At 8:20, Mara's car followed. Jason tailed them from a distance, headlights off, through winding roads, past the outskirts, until they reached the lake. Of course, the lake. The same place he'd brought Evelyn once upon a time. He parked far away, rain misting over his windshield. From a distance, he saw them, Daniel and Mara, sitting close in Daniel's truck. No words, just silence, heavy and telling. Jason felt a strange calm wash over him. It wasn't shock. It was clarity. The symmetry of sin. He'd destroyed his marriage. Mara had destroyed hers. Now they were simply reflections of the same broken thing. He parked across from Daniel's repair shop and waited. At 8:17 p.m., Daniel's truck pulled out. At 8:20, Mara's car followed. Jason tailed them from a distance, headlights off. Through winding roads, past the outskirts, until they reached the lake. Of course, the lake. The same place he'd brought Evelyn once upon a time. He parked far away, rain misting over his windshield. From a distance, he saw them, Daniel and Mara, sitting close in Daniel's truck. No words, just silence, heavy and telling. Jason felt a strange calm wash over him. It wasn't shock. It was clarity. The symmetry of sin. He'd destroyed his marriage. Mara had destroyed hers. Now, they were simply reflections of the same broken thing. That weekend, the town's Founders Gala took place at the Raventon Hall, a yearly event that brought everyone out in their best clothes and fake smiles. All four of them were there. Evelyn arrived alone. Jason came late. Mara wore black, too elegant, too deliberate. Daniel stood by the bar, nursing whiskey like it was penance. When Evelyn walked in, Daniel's breath caught. She looked radiant, yes, but also unreadable. The same composure he once loved now terrified him. Mara caught his glance, smirked faintly. Jason saw it, and that was when the facade began to crack. The evening unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. Polite small talk, fake laughter, wine glasses clinking over lies. Evelyn found herself face to face with Mara near the terrace. The air between them was cold. "You and Jason still together?" Evelyn asked, her tone even. Something flickered in Evelyn's eyes. "He told me once you didn't deserve him." Mara's smile didn't fade. "And yet here we are, both proving him wrong." Neither woman raised their voice. Neither needed to. Their words were blades wrapped in silk. Inside, Jason approached Daniel. "Been a while," Jason said, voice tight. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, guess we've both been busy." Jason leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You think sleeping with my wife makes us even?" Daniel turned to him slowly. "Even? No, but it makes it fair." Jason's jaw tightened. "You really think this ends with us shaking hands and walking away?" Daniel's eyes went flat. "No, I think it ends when one of us stops pretending to care." For a heartbeat, they just stared. Two men who destroyed everything, trying to find a moral high ground in the rubble. Later that night, thunder rolled over the lake. The gala. Evelyn stood alone on the terrace, watching lightning flicker across the water. Jason found her there. "Guess we made a mess of it," he said softly. She didn't look at him. "Guess we did." "You still see him?" he asked. She turned to face him. "Why? You jealous?" He smirked faintly. "No. Just curious how long it takes before you realize he's just like me." She didn't respond. Because he was right. Meanwhile, inside the hall, Daniel and Mara argued in the dark corner near the bar. He wanted to stop whatever this was. She didn't. "You started this," Mara hissed. "You wanted revenge. Now you can't stomach it?" "I wanted to hurt them," he said, "not become them." She stepped closer, voice dropping. Too late. Daniel stepped back. "Mara, it's gone too far." Mara's expression softened for a moment, almost fragile. "You're the only thing that makes me feel alive anymore." And then, as if the universe demanded balance, Evelyn and Jason stepped into the room, right into the aftermath of that confession. For a second, no one moved. 4 people, 4 wrecks, 1 room filled with ghosts. Evelyn's gaze met Daniel's, then Mara's, then Jason's. Jason looked at Mara. "So it's true." Mara didn't deny it. "Yes." Daniel turned to Evelyn. "Now you know." Evelyn's voice cracked. "I already did." The silence that followed was unbearable, a kind of stillness that only comes after everything good has died. Jason laughed suddenly, bitter, sharp. "What a perfect little circle we've drawn." Evelyn's eyes glistened. "We deserve each other." Mara's jaw clenched. "No, we deserve what's coming." And as thunder tore across the sky, something inside each of them broke for good. After that night, things in Raventon shifted. Jason moved out the next morning. Evelyn left the house 2 days later. Mara quit her job at the library. Daniel stopped opening the shop on time. The whole town whispered. They didn't know the details, only that something poisonous had run through those 4 lives, and nothing would ever be the same. But the story wasn't done, because revenge doesn't end when the act is over. It ends when the guilt catches up, and in Raventon, ... there will come time. Guilt had Mara stayed in the house Jason had abandoned. She told herself she didn't care, but the half-empty closet and the unused coffee mug at the sink said otherwise. She still checked her phone at night, hoping for a message that never came. Jason had moved into a rented cabin near the northern woods. The quiet there was meant to cleanse him, but all it did was amplify the noise inside his head. Every lie, every betrayal, every "I love you" that didn't mean what it should have. Small towns feed on gossip like lungs need air. The whispers followed them everywhere. "Did you hear about the Shaws? I heard she left him." No, he left her. And wasn't she with that new guy, Linton? It didn't matter what version people believed. They all sounded like judgment. Evelyn began avoiding eye contact at the grocery store. Daniel stopped going to church. Mara changed her hair, as if a different shade could erase the shame. Jason just stayed away altogether. But secrets in Raventon didn't stay buried. They fermented. One rainy morning, Evelyn found an envelope at her door. No address, just her name. Her eyes met his. "Don't you?" He didn't answer. Jason came back to town a week later. Not for Mara, not for Evelyn. He came back because guilt had become unbearable. He stopped by Daniel's shop first. Daniel didn't look up when Jason walked in, hands in his jacket pockets. "Need something fixed?" Daniel asked. "Yeah," Jason said quietly. "My life." Daniel snorted, shook his head. "You're about 6 months too late for that." Jason stepped closer. "You think I don't know what I did? You think I don't wake up every night wishing I could undo it?" Daniel looked at him then, not angry, just tired. "We all do. Doesn't change a damn thing." Jason nodded slowly. "Maybe not, but maybe we can at least stop letting it kill us." It wasn't forgiveness. It was 2 guilty men agreeing to survive. That same night, Mara saw Jason walking down Main Street. For a second, her breath caught, like a wound reopening. He saw her too. They didn't speak. They just stopped, facing each other in the rain. "You came back," she said finally. "Couldn't stay gone forever." Silence. "I didn't mean for any of it to end like this," she said. He sighed. "None of us did." The words should have helped, but instead they broke something inside her. Tears she'd buried for months came pouring out. "I loved you," she said, "even when I shouldn't have." Jason closed his eyes. "I know." When he opened them again, she was already walking away. That encounter haunted them all. Jason couldn't sleep. Mara started drinking at night. Daniel threw himself into work. Evelyn painted obsessively. Dark, abstract things that looked like storms. One evening, Evelyn received a call from Mara. "Can we talk?" Mara asked. Evelyn hesitated, then agreed. They met at the diner, where it had all started months before. The same booth, the same rain. Mara looked fragile, her eyes rimmed red. "I don't know why I called. I guess I wanted to say I'm sorry." Evelyn frowned. "Sorry for what?" "For being part of it. For not stopping it." Evelyn shook her head slowly. "We all could have stopped it. None of us did." Mara's voice broke. "Do you ever wish you could just start over?" Evelyn stared out the window. "Every day. But starting over means forgiving. And I'm not there yet." They sat in silence for a long while, before Evelyn added softly, "Maybe one." He survived. Barely. When news spread, the whole town murmured again. "Poor Daniel Shaw. He's had enough pain." Evelyn visited him at the hospital. He looked pale, arm in a cast, eyes hollow but alive. "I thought you'd moved on," he said weakly. "I tried," she whispered. "It didn't work." He smiled faintly, a trace of the man she once knew. Maybe that's punishment enough. They didn't talk about the past. They didn't need to. The silence said everything. Remorse, fatigue, and the thin thread of something like forgiveness. After the accident, Jason stopped by Mara's house one last time. She opened the door, surprised. "I heard about Daniel," he said. "I know. I went to see him yesterday." Jason nodded. "Good. Maybe it's time we stop running from what we did." Mara looked at him for a long moment. "And do what instead?" He shrugged. "Live with it." She almost smiled. "That's the hardest part." He left without another word. When he was gone, she sat down on the floor and cried. Not for him, not for Daniel, not even for Evelyn. She cried because she finally run out of anger. Winter came early that year. The lake froze. The town grew quiet again. Evelyn moved back into the house for a few weeks, not to reconcile, but to help Daniel recover. They didn't sleep in the same room. They just shared silence, meals. There was no apology, no explanation, just acknowledgement. Two people who'd been through fire, still standing but changed forever. Meanwhile, Mara and Jason had found their own strange equilibrium. Jason had returned to the city, taking up work quietly, living modestly. Mara stayed in Raventon, painting, volunteering at the library, slowly trying to piece together her life, without anger guiding her every step. They spoke only once. A letter from Mara, short and careful. "I am sorry for everything. I hope you are safe. M." Jason read it, folded it neatly, and placed it in his drawer. He never responded. He didn't need to. The acknowledgement itself was enough. Evelyn and Daniel began working together at the repair shop again, not as husband and wife, not even as friends. They were, in truth, no one could have predicted what had happened in that house. The lake, the winter storms, the hidden nights of rage and tears. Survival had nothing to do with happiness. It was simply the act of keeping going. Late one night, Evelyn stood at the frozen lake, alone. She thought of Mara and Jason, of secrets and lies, of kisses and revenge. And she realized betrayal doesn't end with discovery. It doesn't end with revenge. It echoes quietly, insidiously. Through everything that comes after, she touched the frozen water with her gloved hand. It was cold, unyielding. She understood then that healing would be slow, measured in small increments, a brushstroke on a canvas, a quiet evening with someone who understood pain, a step forward after every stumble backward. Daniel's voice broke the silence. "You thinking about them?" She nodded. "All of them." He shrugged. "Then we're even." She laughed softly. Mara, in her studio, painted the lake frozen in ice and shadow. Jason walked the city streets, hearing echoes of a town he no longer belonged to. Evelyn sketched the repair shop in quiet graphite, every line precise and unflinching. Daniel closed the garage doors at night, listening to the engines rest, and allowed himself a brief moment of calm. 4 lives, entangled, broken, but surviving. No love left unscathed, no heart untouched by guilt, no revenge complete. Yet somehow, against all odds, life continued. And in the echoes of Raventon, the quiet truth lingered. Some scars never fade, but they teach you how to move forward anyway.